listening to Second Wind with Joyce Buford, where women who are ready to expand their life adventure discover the tools to stop playing small and tap into the courage required to enjoy their second wind. Welcome. Welcome to Second Wind today. This is going to be a fun show. Now, we're going to learn about the transitions from pain into happiness through our guest who is our honoree today. But I want to tell you about something that I have going, and that is that I'm going to host a virtual happy hour on on September the 16th, and I'm going to be giving you the connectors for you to be there with me, and we're just going to talk about an upcoming gathering that I have. Now, the little virtual happy hour is totally free. It's just so that you can visit with me, ask me questions, because I am doing a 2-part session on values for the next 2 Wednesdays following. I would love for you to be there, but maybe you don't know why somebody would want to know their values. Well, we're going to get that explained to you, and also hopefully you will be moved to want to know your values and how to incorporate those into your life. So I'm going to put those call letters out to you in a few minutes as my VA is sending those to me as we speak. So anyway, I want to share with you something that our guest is passionate about. But first I want to tell you about Julia Schneider. Julia is a holistic health and life transformational coach. She helps people to find happiness and to uplift their well-being. She uses the great outdoors to reconnect with nature. And you know that when you're in nature, you are truly down to the basics of who you are. Somehow the nature has a way of calling us back home, because that's where we started. Clients are empowered to tap into their highest natural flow of life itself. She does this through walks through nature. She does this by explaining and discussing the powers of human nature. Julia has a degree in kinesiology and a health sciences, is a certified holistic health and lifestyle coach, a feminine power coach and leader, and a seasoned wellness entrepreneur, working with change makers, entrepreneurs, and visionaries and innovators. Julia offers transformational coaching programs, women's circles, masterminds, workshops, intuitive travel experiences, and retreats for groups and individuals internationally. Now, I love the fact that she loves to learn and that she also travels the world. I can't imagine how glorious a trip would be with Julia in the many forests all over the world. I want to sign up, Julia.
You're welcome. Come aboard.
I just think it would be marvelous.
It is. Yeah.
I once had the good fortune to go to the rainforest, and
wow.
I was amazed at all that was available to us through the rainforest. I mean, actually humbled to know there was so much that the rainforest provides for us, is for medicine and for so many things. So as I walk through your website, which is indeed a pleasure to walk through, I almost felt like I was having an experience and reconnecting with nature, just walking through, just looking at your website.
I'm so happy to hear that. that's exactly what I was going for when I was creating it. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So how are you so connected to the work of nature, to the and wanting to incorporate that into your coaching?
Yeah, well, the way it started is that I grew up in Russia, as you can probably tell by my accent. I still haven't shaken it off fully. And so the lifestyle in Russia is such that most people go into nature all the time. It's a very normal part of life, but people. We go foraging for mushrooms and berries. And I remember as a kid, we used to go. We had bikes. The entire family likes to bike, and so we'll take our bikes into the forest and go all the way because there were some secret forest lakes in there, and my parents knew about them. So we would go there and just get together with our family. It was just such an amazing experience, and I have just wonderful memories from all of that. And then when we came to Canada and I started exploring, career choices and all of that, nature always was at the top of my mind. But I would say that the turning point for me was I actually burnt out about 12 years ago, 4 years into my personal training career. That's how I, after university, I started doing personal training, and 4 years into it, I burnt out, and I couldn't work anymore. And I, gradually, because going into nature is so normal for me and so natural, I just started going more and more for walks and just nature immersions, and I noticed that I'm starting to get better. I was recovering my energy levels and my health, and as I progressed with doing that, I realized that, what? This is exactly what people need. People are burnt out, people are stressed out, and, typically pretty disconnected from nature because especially now, right, like in today's world, technology is taking over, right? And I, one thing led to another, and I just combined it with my coaching. And so now we just go into the forest and people talk to me about their lifestyle concerns, and we just address all of that. And what I find is that when we are in nature, everything becomes very clear. It's like the energy just gets really harmonized, and we are able to access a knowing within ourselves that we typically are not able to access in the day-to-day life, like when we're busy. So, it just works out really well.
Well, I'm going to kind of pull on some of my experience from walking in the nature. And I don't know if it's that I just hadn't been in nature like that. And I'm speaking of the rainforest, but it's actually any forest. When you're walking among trees and tall trees or just the thicket of things, it just has a way of sweeping away the stress that that seems to block our thinking so much of our days. And so I can kind of connect and understand the beauty and the simplicity that, and just walking with your clients must just give you such a peaceful way to carry them through their transitions.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and it's very supportive also because it's I don't know, nature has a very nurturing aspect to it.
Yes.
And especially when people need to talk about difficult things, I find that it's almost like nature holds a container for that. And the other part is that, like sometimes the conversation could get a bit too sensitive, too vulnerable for people. So what I do is I just shift their attention back to nature, and that harmonizes them, and it kind of soothes them and calms them down. So it's kind of like it helps me to facilitate their experience in the most comforting and comfortable way, you know?
Yeah. So I'm curious how you moved from well-being training, coaching, that type of training, to doing, and I am assuming you do one-on-one coaching or group coaching?
I do both.
You do both? So was it a natural thing for you to want to move into coaching, or what really called you for coaching?
Yeah, that's actually an interesting question. You know how it happened? So when I was a personal trainer, I thought that all people need from me is to teach them how to work out. But
Yes.
what I realized is that what people really need, I mean, of course, they wanted me to, help them reach their fitness goals. But most often than not, people would start sharing with me very personal information.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like our sessions weren't just physical exercise. There was a lot of emotional support, a lot of mindset coaching that I was doing, which
Yes.
I haven't even prepared for it in university. So after a while, what I started doing, like I realized, you know what, I don't have enough skills. I know how to keep, I know how to teach people how to eat well, how to exercise, but I definitely needed more skills in terms of, holding space for them, and so that they can process their day. Because, a lot of people don't actually have enough people to talk to in their life.
Yes.
Because sometimes, let's say you have some sort of issue in your family, and a lot of people don't really have a way to process that. And I find that, so that's what I found. It like the personal training space was a space for that as well. And so I learned, I took the Feminine Power Coaching certification, which specifically focuses on emotional support. And I just included that into my work, because it was obvious to me that health cannot be achieved just by working out and eating healthy. Like there needed to be much more. There needed to be a lot of emotional support. And also, the next part of that is that I also realized that people, as long as we don't live in alignment with our unique destiny path, our unique way of living that we came here to live, that also impacts health. So I also include that in my coaching now. I help people to get clear on their values, get clear on their passions, their dreams, their vision for the future. And and I help them to stick to it and just follow that path.
Right. Well, then you totally understand my enthusiasm about the value workshop that I'm going to do. Because, I'm going to tell a little story about me. I'm kind of, for being raised in Arkansas and moving to Texas, which I was born in Texas, but I was exposed to a very conservative life. And yet my interest in love and design and style and the unique art from all over the world is very interesting to me. So I like to mix in and buy African art and other things to put in my home. Now in East Texas, in this small town that I live in, it's kind of unique. I mean, you don't usually find a lot of that. And so anyway, for a long time, I didn't know that one of my very important values was beauty. And to me, that is beauty. The African art, the beautiful sculptures, the bronzes, all of that is beautiful to me. And so when I realized that unique and the little quirky, what I'd always thought was a quirky side of me, was really a value that defined me even more, I relaxed and I started enjoying what was actually part of my life. And it was such a big release. You know what I mean? When
Yeah.
you actually know that this quirky value makes you distinctive, it makes you who you are.
Hmm.
And it's
I love
more
that.
about accepting it, isn't it? It was just an eye opener to me. So I know you're probably as passionate about the values at learning as I am, because it was one of the bases for
Yeah.
life change. You
Yeah,
know.
I love your story. I love it because it's, and would you say that as you started to kind of live more in alignment with this value of beauty, like did
Hmm.
thing, well, it's because you're saying that, you know, you felt calmer and just more joyful and
Right.
like, yeah. And did you feel that you kind of like you had more space to breathe kind of thing, you know, like,
Oh, life was different. I mean,
yeah.
I could accept me, and accepting yourself is so important. I mean, I could relax. And what was so interesting is that people started liking to come to my house because it
Oh, that's
was different. And that was a reflection for me that sometimes we think people won't enjoy it, won't take it in, they'll criticize us. And actually, they're so um, thrilled or enjoy the exposure, but it
mm,
also is a learning for them. So,
yeah. Yeah, I
yeah,
love what you're
so it
saying
was
because
really
it's
fun.
also like that's the whole part of that's the great part here is that I think when we live in alignment, like when we have the
Hmm.
courage to live in
Hmm.
alignment with our values, it actually gives
Yes.
other courage too, because other
Mm.
people also have their own unique values, right? And when
Yeah.
they see someone who is just doing it, just
Mm.
being themselves, it inspires others to be themselves too, and it's just so beautiful.
Mm. So your transition was actually caused through the physical breakdown of your body. Was that it? Was that what
Yeah.
happened? Or you were depressed, or I don't know how you describe your burnout.
Mm.
But you talk about the wonderful thing, and I love to talk about transitions because, as you know, that's primarily what I ask my guests to share with me.
Mm.
And when I went through my divorce, there wasn't a podcast. That was many years ago. It was very early in podcasting world. And so there weren't any tools like that for women going through transition to hear the other side of transition and to realize that once you work yourself through that pain, then there's lots of wonderful things. So tell us about your transition and why you were so pulled toward putting that into your coaching practice.
Mm. Yeah, I'll be happy to. So, well, as I was saying earlier, I was working as a personal trainer, and I just burnt out, like, and not a little bit. Like, I burnt out to the point that I couldn't move. It was even thinking about lifting my arm was exhausting. I was that tired.
Really?
And yeah, it was. It was bad. It was like bad.
Huh. And that was
Yeah,
all, was
and
that your mind or was that physically the body not just rebelling? I mean, how would
well,
that?
you know, well, at first I was very confused. Like I wasn't sure why it happened because I thought that I knew what I was doing as a health professional, you know, with
Uh-huh.
a university degree and certifications and all that. But then as I started researching,
Mm-hmm.
I realized that I had a lot of unprocessed childhood
Yes.
trauma,
Uh-huh.
and which, you know, as I was, you know, untangling all of, you know, that knot, what became very clear to me is that the burnout happened because my nervous system was very sensitive, and
Yes.
so it was basically related to childhood and the way I was related to the world. and the way
Yeah.
that was impacting my nervous system. And so what I've done throughout the years is I basically kept researching and figuring out ways to heal myself, and learned just so much more than I ever learned in university. About holistic health, because you see, in university I only learned about physical health, but
Yes.
the program did not include anything about emotional health, spiritual health, that kind of, and so I learned just, like my focus was to heal myself first and foremost, but once I started feeling better, and to the point that I was actually was able to function again, I realized that I'm not the only one who needs this. I'm not the only one who had this experience. And so I gradually started including this in my coaching, and just so that I can support others and hopefully help them prevent it, because it's much easier to prevent a burnout than recover from a burnout, So,
yes.
So that's kind of how it happened.
Well, sometimes I'm always impressed by the number of women that I interview that tell about they get to a point where school learning or going to a doctor. I had a previous guest, she talked about periods and the confusion and difficulty around those. And she had a lot of trouble with her period every month, and it was just life-changing. I mean, she'd faint and go, the most unusual places at school and so forth. And like you, she had come to an impasse in her life, and she knew there had to be more than what was given her through education, but she had to do it. She did her own research, and I think that's awesome that you all take it. So, you're just determined, I will find my answers. And so you move it into the next stage, if you will, of really, it's almost like, I will get this done. I will find out what's happening to me. And I love that you were so strong and so compelled to move forward. So where did you start? What was the thing once you realized school hadn't done it for you? So you just started taking courses, or what was that?
Yeah, well, the way it started actually is that I went to my family doctor. Because you see, when I burnt out, what happened also is that I had to have an emergency surgery, and one of my organs was taken out. And then after the surgery, I went to my family doctor because he was supposed to release, all the documents and all that. And he basically said, because I was really scared, to be quite honest, because I didn't know what was going on. And so I was asking, okay, well, what can I do to make sure to prevent this from happening again? Yes. And he said, there's nothing you can do. It's going to happen again. And when I left his office, it was just like my decision was, no, this is not going to happen again, And once I made this commitment, what started happening, it's very interesting. Like, I find it happens pretty often when we sort of shift into a new way of doing things. Like, what started happening for me is that I started getting information from different sources that I wasn't even looking into. And so, for example, one time I got an email about a holistic health coaching course. And when I read the description, I was like, that sounds exactly like what I need. It sounds like, So I went there, I took the course, and then other courses started coming in. And then I started meeting practitioners who, knew more in terms of burnout and holistic health than I did. So I learned from them. And it just started all coming together. And like overall, over the last 12 years, I've done a lot of studying, I got a lot of, I guess you can call it continuous education. I started with different professionals. But the way I did it is that I just followed the next step. It was like, okay, so now I learned how to manage my stress. What's next? And then I would have something, like come into my awareness about emotions. I will, oh yeah, that's exactly what I need. So study that. What's next? And
I love that. I love that you ask. It's like asking the universe or God or whoever is your spiritual support, what's next? I've done this, so what's next? And it's so interesting to see how it's always provided, maybe through we become more aware or more direct. I just love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And now what I actually do, I do help them practically in terms of like I share information and I just help people kind of to have the a shortcut towards healing, because I spent 12 years on it, but you don't need to spend 12 years. There is I figure out a way to do it much faster. So that's what I help people to do. Yeah. But the other thing, which I think is actually the most important thing that I do is I help people tune into their own intuition, into their own inner knowing, and follow their own path towards healing. Because I think that each person has a different path. We have our own unique path. And if we want to be fully, if we want to thrive on all levels of our life, it's a very good idea to be able to connect with your inner guidance and follow what it says.
Yeah. Well, I think too many people think they don't have those answers. They live their life thinking they don't have the answers. Mm-hmm. And true, we've been trained since we were 2 years old that we have to look outside ourselves for our answers. And what an amazing thing. It's inside us if we just ask and wait and allow it to either be directed or give it to us through our intuition. I love that. I really do. We are going to take a short break, and we will be back with Julia. And I am so excited about more information that you are going to be listening to and learning about. So when we get through, we will be back with you shortly. So don't go away.
Transformational coach, motivational speaker, and author Joyce Buford returns after this short break. Close your eyes and imagine living your life without limits. Where would you go? Who would you meet? What would you do? During an Uncover Your Hidden Genius session, you will discover what's keeping you from living your life with purpose, passion, and fulfillment of your potential. You'll get a clear vision of the steps you need to take to uncover your hidden genius so that you can live a life without limits. Sessions can be done over the phone, Skype, or in person. Find out more at www.joycebufordempowers.com or by calling 903-287-0747.
Got a lead foot? According to state troopers, here's what not to do when you get pulled over. Don't be a lachrymous and start crying right away. It doesn't help. But if you're under 20, crying won't be held against you. Don't ask for a break, and don't yell or start any argy-bargy. And one trooper said, if they're going to flirt with me to get out of a ticket, it would probably insult my intelligence. But unfortunately, I don't get hit on all that often. So flirting or being a gill flirt won't work. Did you know that 15% of all drivers get 76% of all traffic tickets? And the odds of winning if you challenge a traffic ticket in court are 1 in 3. So what should you do when you get pulled over for speeding? Be courteous to the officer, and most of all, be honest. It's words you never heard. I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
Welcome back to this segment of Second Wind. Joyce Buford, the author of Effortless Happiness, continues in this segment to share insights that will help you live a life of greater purpose and filled with happiness. Now here's our host, author and coach, Joyce Buford.
Welcome back. We are talking with Julia Snyder, who lives in Canada, beautiful Canada. And so she has a great opportunity to walk through the forest and take her clients through virtual walks. And I would almost call them healing walks, Julia. I just know the magic that must go on when you take those walks, for sure.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm curious as to how you found the courage to keep stepping up, keep stepping. It gets sometimes when you're finding your path, your way, it gets disappointments. You have disappointments. You have all those, maybe you have comments from loved ones that say, oh, come on, aren't you finished with that? And yet inside you, there's this inner knowing that there's another level, another person, a big dream. So how did you keep hold of that dream and your courage to move forward to help people?
That's a good question. Yeah. Well, so my first answer to this is actually very, let's say, practical, which is because when that medical doctor that I told you about before told me that what happened to me is going to happen again, to me it was very scary, and I did not want it to happen again. So that was a huge motivation to do my own research and make sure that I continue to research until I can make sure that it doesn't happen again, right? Because that was the only path I saw in front of myself. But the other part of it is that I had, when I was, I'm trying to remember, I think about a year before that surgery happened, I had a very clear vision. I received a vision of what I'm going to be creating. And the vision was that I'm going to create a holistic health center to help people find themselves so that they can live their life in alignment with who they truly are. Like, it was just so clear. It just dropped into my consciousness, and I knew for sure that this was mine to create. So basically, both of these aspects, both the fear that it's going to happen, like the health breakdown is going to happen again, and this inspiration of creating this center, it just kept me going. And anytime I had disappointments, which were many, there were like obstacles, disappointments. I mean, I think it's pretty typical when you go through this path of, I want to call it like self-actualization, because that's really what it was. It was letting go of all the old layers that were no longer aligned with who I am, and just stepping into being who I needed to be in order to manifest that vision that I had,
Right.
And and it just kept pulling me forward. And anytime I had some sort of an obstacle or something frustrating happen, I would get like upset about it. But after, I would go for a walk or I would do a meditation, and I would just realize that I don't want to live my life any other way. Like, this way was what felt the best to me, and I just decided that I'll just keep going no matter what. The other options are not appealing to me.
It's those, I call them defining moments in our lives, when they just really say, okay, you got to make a decision here. And it's many times it follows a very discouraging results of something you've tried, or a life-changing, as your illness did, and your doctor saying, well, you're just going to have to get used to these illnesses or surgeries, and there's a pushback that we get. It's like inner knowing, no, I'm not going to take this. And I've seen it repeatedly in everybody's life. And yet it's so that, come on, that speak to me on second wind. And it's just so powerful how it moves us onto a bigger calling, you know? Yeah. So how would you say your life is today compared to when the doctor said, oh, you're going to have more of these surgeries?
Oh my gosh. So different. Just, oh my goodness. Just like night and day. Like I learned, over the years, I learned to trust my intuition 100% over anything else. Mm-hmm. And that gives me just so much freedom and just so much peace of mind, because I know now that no matter what happens, I will be guided through it. And so that's one thing. And the other thing is that I just, like when breakdowns happen, I actually take a very different approach than I used to. Well, yeah, my different approach. So like when in the past, if an obstacle, if something happened, it took me a while to sort of find my center again. But now anytime a breakdown happens, I'm quite happy about it. I mean, of course, at first it's a little bit frustrating, but after, I take a deep breath and sort of calm down, I recognize every breakdown as an opportunity to grow and move to the next level. And that's what I've been doing for years now. Anytime something happens, I just use it as a way to up-level my life. So, just very, very different.
So let's share with that listener out there who is having moments of depression or stress or sadness or doubt, and she's faced with a lot of decisions. And so what would you say would be, with just generically saying, what would be the next step for her?
Well, I would say, first of all, I would say go into nature. Just go into nature for even an hour, even 5 minutes. If you don't have an hour or half an hour, just step outside and really connect with nature and the energy of nature. And take a few deep breaths and allow yourself to kind of calm down a little bit. And then just ask the question, what is my next step? And actually, before you ask the question, you could sort of, if you could just connect to a vision for your life that is better than what is happening right now. So, for example, if someone is going through a divorce, for example, which is, I have not gone through a divorce myself, but I know people who have, and I know that it's a very difficult situation.
Oh, it is. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course. And so, so for example, if that's the situation, then step outside, connect with nature, and allow yourself to envision what would you like to experience on the other side. So just use your imagination. If nothing comes, just use your imagination and imagine what life could be like, in the positive way after the entire process of divorcing is finished. And so just hold that vision for yourself. And then as you hold it, you want to take another deep inhale and then ask yourself, what is my next step? And just listen. So do your best not to think about it. It's very easy to sort of jump into our head and start trying to figure out, plan things out.
Right.
But if you find that happens, just take another inhale and sort of follow it into your body. So sort of become more embodied. And then listen again. What is my next step? And just see what comes to you.
When you say go out in nature, there's all sorts of scenarios out there. If this lady lives in a city, uh, would it be walking to, maybe she doesn't have ground, maybe she doesn't have a garden or grass. How could she connect with nature? Would it be go to a park, or does it have to be grass? Or can you give us some ideas?
She could go to a park. That's one way of doing it. So any patch, even if there's like no grass, if you can just go out and put your, if she can go out and just put her hand on a tree somewhere, typically in cities do have trees here and there.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and just put your hand on a tree and just feel the energy of the tree, and that will be a very good start.
Yeah.
And
I like
if it's
that.
Possible, and if it's possible to drive out somewhere into nature, that would of course be ideal. But if that's not accessible, that's okay. Just and I also encourage people to have a lot of greenery inside their house. So plants, flowers. And this, you can also either touch the leaf of a plant or maybe stroke the flower of the flower of a plant. And sometimes when you look at nature, just looking at nature already harmonizes you as well. So there's many ways to do it.
Yeah. Now I have a new program that you'll be so excited about, Julia. I know. I walk on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Haven't graduated to every day. But for me, I love the walking. Now, is that a good way to connect with nature?
Oh, yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
I'm so happy you brought it up because, yes, so walking, so being in nature on its own is already wonderful. But if you combine nature with walking, it's amazing because what happens is that, you know how you walk, you kind of swing your arms a little bit side to side. And this is called bilateral stimulation. And what happens is that when we do that kind of motion, it harmonizes the brain, actually. Yeah, and when the brain is harmonized, we actually get so much more access to insight. It just amplifies it tenfold. So
very good.
Yeah,
I see people carrying weights and using weights. Would you recommend that versus just moving the arms?
That could be that could be it too. Yeah.
Yeah, either one.
Yeah.
So. Well, I'm so proud of myself. I can't tell you how proud I am.
I'm proud of you too.
Just to be doing this morning, actually, I walk very early. I live in a neighborhood, and so I'm out my front door at 6. And so it's still dark here this morning. And so anyway, there's something about walking in the dark that, is kind of nice. But in a safe area, please. Let's not get too crazy here. But anyway, so I love that as the next powerful step of just grounding. Would you use the word grounding by going outside and walking? Do you take, I know you've mentioned meditation. So do you do your meditation outside, or do you tend to do that wherever? In-house or out?
Yeah, I typically do it outside. I really love being in, outdoors. So yeah, most of the things I do is outdoors. Yeah.
Yeah. We were visiting earlier, and I really want to encourage people to go to your website. So what is your website?
So it's www.alivewithpossibility.coach.
Okay. And on the site, you talk about your different coaching processes that you use, but is that where they would find a virtual walking through the forest?
Yes. So I have on my homepage, I have a whole description about I call it intuitive forest walk. And
Uh-huh.
so I have a whole description, and there's two options to engage with it. It could be in person if people are local to Ontario, Ontario, Canada, or if people are not local, then I also do it on the phone. So the way it works is that the person will be the one going out into nature, and I'm going to be guiding them on the phone. And it works really well too. It's a different experience than us working together, but it actually works really, really well too.
Ah, so it's not a visual tape that you're walking through the forest, but listening to you. Is that correct?
Yeah. So they're the ones who are engaging with nature, and I am talking to them on the phone. And I'm very sensitive to energy. So when people go out in nature, I can actually feel the energy.
Oh.
And so in a way, I'm kind of working with them, but only energetically, not physically. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Really. Now, you are been gracious enough to offer a complimentary gift to the listeners. So what would that be? Would you like to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah. So I'm offering a complimentary breakthrough session to people, and it could be done in a few ways. It could be done if the listeners want to try out an intuitive forest walk. So it could be done as an intuitive forest walk where I guide people on the phone unless they're local. Or we could have it just in the comfort of their home. So if they don't want to go out in nature, we're going to talk about whatever is on their mind and connect with a vision for a much better and brighter future than connect with what might be in the way of that, and then get clear on the next step. So by the end of that session, people will walk away with like a really clear next step towards.
Do they go to your website to find where they can connect? Is that on your website, how they can connect?
Yeah, so there's a few ways. So I've given you a booking link, so you're welcome to share that with your listeners. Or another way to do it is, so the listeners could email me through the website, or just email me directly. Really, it's my email is julia@alivewithpossibility.coach. So they can email me and request it, or contact me through the website. Or another option is when you go and click on the Book Your Walk button on my website, it will actually take you into my booking link, and there are two options there. There is an option for a complimentary breakthrough, so you can book that.
I just think the virtual walk just sounds so interesting. Out of the many coaches that I have interviewed on Second Wind, you are probably the first that is really using nature in that way. So now, how do you also do you do once when we return to travel, you also do traveling with your groups. So where do you normally take them? What are some of the places you have gone to with groups?
Well, there's typically it's North America, so British Columbia, Ontario, and I really like California and Arizona. And in terms of California, especially Yosemite Park. So basically, I like to take people into very just majestic nature settings.
Yes.
Just like these mountains and lakes and maybe the ocean if we can get there. And so just like really immersing ourselves in this incredible experience of being in nature.
Yeah. Well, with all of this pandemic and the fires and my heart goes out to all those people that are dealing with major fires. We really don't know what our national parks, and they are so magnificent. I have a friend who's visited every one. And I thought, wow, what a great thing to do. I mean, it's just, they're national parks for a reason. They are magnificent. So anyway, I also work with a coach that is in in Canada. So I might just call you up when I go up there and we'll just take a walk to you.
Sounds good to me. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be fun? Sure. Oh, yeah. You also have a Facebook page. And what do you do with your Facebook? You call it the Wellness Being Sisterhood, which I love. But what do you do on your Facebook? Do you have a regular group that gets together, or how do you use that?
Well, no, Facebook is really just to bring awareness to people that the service is available. So I don't really do, when I do groups, I do it on Zoom. I don't really do groups on Facebook.
Yeah.
Well, actually, sorry, let me clarify. I do Zoom in terms of meeting and talking, and then I create groups on Facebook specifically to complement the Zoom meeting. So it's yeah.
So how has your life been since we've been in pandemics and all of this horrible things we've been going through, stressful things? Has your Zoom life increased?
Yeah. So Zoom, I definitely have been doing more Zoom meetings. But I also, we had closures here nature-wise for 2 months. That was so hard. It was just so hard. Oh, my gosh. But luckily they opened up again. So my life is different, definitely. It's adjusting to all the policies and all of that. But it's different, but it's still good. It's still a good life.
Yeah.
I'm able to go into nature. And I have to say that COVID was really good to me because somehow it really helped me focus even more.
Yes.
And I've actually been really productive over the last 6 months. I created so much.
Yeah. I think it's a really good way for us to realize that by experiencing the pandemic, we all had to stop. We all had to get outside of our norm and be creative. And at first, most of us were stunned. I don't have a living now. So how does this work? And so if you really look at it, you have to say there are good things that have come out of this period. As strange and uncomfortable as it has been, it still brought forth some good things. I think the business world is much more attuned to doing Zoom meetings than getting in your car and driving, which also helps our oil problem, our gas problem, So I think we have to look at it, like you said, as there were definitely good things that came out of where we are, and it's not over. But anyway, there's lots of good things.
And I wanted also to say that, I'm noticing that people are starting to band together more. There's more sense of a community, at least where I live. And I'm sure it's everywhere, right? And then, now in Canada, things are sort of almost back to normal. So there is a lot of traffic on the roads. But in the first few months, I remember when I was driving, I don't remember where I was driving, but I think I just wanted to drive through nature just to get like a little bit of a hit, I guess. And I saw a fox. I have not seen a fox for 25 years.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, and so it's like,
nature.
I think it was very helpful. It was very helpful for nature to not have so many people,
right. Yeah. Yes. Well, I have to say that this has been a very enjoyable interview, Julia.
Thank you. Same here.
I love what you do. I love how you combined health and nature together because they are indeed so powerful. And although Mother Nature is getting real hard hit out in California and Colorado, I was in Santa Fe, New Mexico 2 weeks ago, and even they were experiencing a fire. But the fires have a way of bringing back renewal. So anyway, but I do thank you so much for your generosity. I encourage you for your work. I mean, it's so needed, and I love the nature part of your work.
Thank you so much, Joyce. It was so lovely to talk to you. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Good. Well, all of you need to go to our website. I really encourage you to go to our website, which is www.alivewithpossibility.coach, because you will see a gorgeous walk through the forest there, which is really wonderful. I enjoyed just experiencing it. Now, I do want to encourage you to come to the virtual happy hour that is coming up on the 16th and September the 16th. And to get there, just let me know that you're coming. Now, again, the purpose is so that you can become aware of any questions that you might have. You might experience me. It's open to questions. And those people that do show up, it's free. It's just a real good happy session so that we can chat and visit with other women that are in transition as well. So I hope you'll be there. Go to Joyce Buford Empowers /happy hour, and you can sign in, get my freebie for you, and we'll look forward to seeing you there. If that's not going to happen, then I really look forward to you being back with us next week, which I know will be an exciting time full of new learnings.
Joyce Buford returns next week at the same time for another edition of Second Wind. Through the Joyce Buford Empowerment System, women are receiving the support they need through their transitions and are able to reclaim their true purpose with confidence. They receive the tools they need to map out new lives. You can find out more about her coaching services at joycebufordempowers.com.